The gallows crown hung in the sky like a warning whispered too late. Once a crown-class refiner, now a carcass, bleeding vapor into a storm that forgot how to die. This is the last log from the gallows crown.
Containment breach. Rerouted the kill code. I saw them. My squad. Moving like they weren't dead.
Protocol failure. Crew compromised. It's still in control. Do not board!
This is Protocol 13. Accord ID Kilo 7. Mission fail. Complete tactical loss. Repeat. Do not send recovery. Containment breached.
The Accord says they brought order to the skies, built the high cities, tamed the drift. What they don't say is how much blood it cost. We're not heroes, not rebels, just a crew of ghosts in a ship they can't trace.
No map, no light, just a fist and flame. I don't chase victory, I drag it by name. Climb the ranks, don't stop, don't fall. Every scar's a step, every step's a call. When the sky breaks loose and the fire line bends, I break again.
You can dodge the storms, you can silence the ghosts, but there is always blood in the drift.
The crew of Stormchaser didn't come for glory. They came for scrap, maybe ghosts, if the ghosts were more generous. The shudder of the docking clamps locking onto the derelict's hull was a familiar sound, a percussive punctuation mark at the end of a long, silent approach. Cormac felt it in his teeth, a vibration that traveled up his spine and settled in the tight space behind his eyes. On the main pulse screen of Stormchaser's bridge, the image of Gallows' crown resolved into a network of jagged metal and weeping conduits, a crown-class refiner that had long since surrendered its title. It hung in the storm-torn atmosphere of the mid-drift, like a bone relic, bleeding a faint vapor into the ochre clouds.
Crown-class derelict locked,
Vesna's voice announced, smooth and measured as always, yet the sub-audible hum from the ship's core felt a fraction off-key.
atmosphere within standard decay parameters. Harmonics, however, are unstable. Recommend caution.
Cormac's fingers, which had been resting on the cool metal of the command table, twitched.
Shit. Unstable harmonics.
The phrase was a deceptively simple warning for a universe of potential violence. It could mean anything from a dying power core to a ship that actively remembered its own death.
Shiv, talk to me,
Cormac said, his voice a low rasp. From the forward console, a young man with hair too bright for the grime of the drift lens grinned, his reflection flickering on the curved glass. Shiv Darrow, new blood, good with tech, better with his own ego.
Signals flaring like a cheap prayer candle, Captain. Glyph bands humming low deep in the subaudible range. Kinda beautiful, actually.
Beautiful gets you killed.
Wraith's voice cut in from the comms station.
Log it.
Cormac watched Shiv's grin falter for a moment. Wraith had that effect on people. She was the ship's enforcer, its brutal edge. And she didn't trade in pleasantries. She traded in survival. A heavy grunt came over the internal comm from the engine room.
If it sings, I punch.
Breck, simple as a bulkhead and just as reliable. A soft, lyrical reply floated back.
You'll lose.
Feral, Her instincts were a weapon unto themselves, a sixth sense she called the twitch that had kept her alive in the lowest, darkest corners of the drift. Cormac ignored the chatter. It was the crew's way of sharpening their nerves before a breach. His own were already honed.
Breach in 90, stack tight. Shiv, you have point. Keep your eyes open and your mouth shut.
The airlock of the gallows crown opened with a groan that sounded less like metal and more like something giving up a final breath. A hiss of condensing vapor coiled out, carrying the scent of ozone and forgotten things. The interior was not the chaotic ruin Cormac had expected. It was clean, too clean. The emergency lighting cast long, distorted shadows down a corridor that seemed to stretch into infinity. Glyphs were etched into the walls, not with the precision of high city engineering, but carved like scars that had healed wrong, their patterns subtly corrupted. Spectre ran a gloved hand over one of the glyphs, his aug-eye whirring as it scanned the pattern.
Structure's folding on itself, Captain. This doesn't match any standard Crown-class deck plans. These are drift tech modifications, patched in after the fact.
Shiv scoffed, his confidence returning now that they were inside.
Maybe it redecorated. Haunted steel's got taste.
You're a clown,
Spectre stated, his voice a flat, distorted monotone that carried no malice, only fact. Cormac looked from one branching corridor to the next. The ship didn't feel empty. It felt like it was holding its breath.
Wraith, you're reading the same thing?
Her voice came back over their private channel, tight and controlled.
Path splits, uppers clean on thermals, lowers dense with structural interference. This feels wrong, Cormac. Too quiet.
He respected her caution, but hesitation was a luxury they couldn't afford.
We move fast. We stay safe. Breck, Farrell, you take the lower path. Punch through any blockades, but don't engage what you can't identify. Wraith, Spectre, you're with me. Shiv, you're still on point. If something so much as breathes, I want to know about it before it speaks.
Can do.
Breck's voice rumbled with the promise of contained violence.
Can hear,
Farrell whispered, and Cormac knew she wasn't talking about sound. They moved into the derelict's heart, boots echoing softly on the grated deck. The silence was an active thing, a presence that seemed to watch them pass. Cormac's hand hovered near the repeater pistol, holstered on his hip, his mind cataloging every flicker of light, every groan of stressed metal. He had led crews into 100 wrecks just like this, but the Crown felt different. It felt personal. They reached a junction where a single complex glyph pulsed with a faint inner light. It was a control node, but of a design Cormac had never seen. It was intricate, a lattice of intersecting lines that seemed to shift and writhe at the edge of his vision. Shiv knelt without being told, his scanner whirring.
Looks like drift code, but it's wrapped in old guild script. Says, passage granted by encoded frequency. Sounds like an invitation to me.
Vesna, run it.
Cormac ordered, his eyes never leaving the glyph.
Source unrecognized.
The AI's voice replied in his ear, a hint of static bleeding through.
Recommend disengage.
Yeah.
Shiv muttered, already reaching out.
Looks stable enough.
Shiv, don't.
Cormac snapped, but it was too late. The tech's fingers brushed the surface of the glyph. For a second, nothing happened. Then a low thrum resonated through the deck, a single pure tone that grew in intensity until it felt like it was shaking their bones. A pulse of blue light flared from the glyph, washing over them.
Unauthorized protocol activated.
Vesna's voice said, the calm cracking.
Warning. Geometric shift in progress.
Shiv, what did you just do?
Wraith demanded over the comm, her voice tight with fury.
Just pinged it. It was nothing major, I swear. Oh, hell.
Shiv scrambled to his feet, his face pale. With a deafening shriek of tortured metal, a bulkhead slammed down from the ceiling, sealing the corridor behind them. The glyph on the wall flared, its pattern rearranging itself into a new, more menacing shape. The ship was awake, and it was hungry.
All crew, fall back to the airlock, now!
Cormac's order was a guttural roar.
It heard us.
Farrell's voice came over the comm, a strange, delighted lilt in her tone.
Walk hungry.
The ship was fighting them. Corridors twisted, doorways sealed themselves, and the very geometry of the space seemed to warp around them. It was a death trap tuned by a madman. Shiv, panicked, sprinted ahead, trying to navigate the shifting maze.
It's moving! Passage ahead is twisted. No way out on the left.
A screech of servos echoed from a side passage, and the first drone appeared. It was a scavenger construct, all mismatched plates and jury-rigged limbs, but its targeting lens glowed with a malevolent red light.
Big bastard drone.
Breck bellowed from the lower decks.
Front and loud.
Glyph linked the shield.
Spectre reported, his voice calm despite the chaos.
No known specification, it's custom work.
The drone fired not a laser, but a pulse of raw sound that slammed into the wall next to Cormac, leaving a scorch mark that hummed with dissonant energy.
Shiv, move now!
Almost to the junction.
The tech gasped, his voice ragged with fear.
Wait, the glyphs. They changed. That's not a door anymore, it's...
A brilliant flash of harmonic energy erupted in front of him, a silent, ravenous pulse. Shiv's comm went dead, just static. A cold, clinical finality entered Cormac's mind.
Vesna, report.
Shiv Darrow. Biometrics lost.
Gone. Not killed by a bullet or a blade, but erased by a weaponized frequency. The objective, to get everyone out alive, was gone with him. Failure tasted like ash in Cormac's mouth.
Not taken.
Farrell whispered over the comm.
Judged?
Before the weight of the loss could fully settle, a second drone emerged from the shifting shadows. This one was different. Sleeker, darker, its movements fluid and predatory. It wasn't a scavenger, it was a hunter. Its weapon array hummed with a power that made the air crackle. Cormac's mind raced. They were exposed, separated, and outgunned by technology they didn't understand. A chaotic retreat would get more of them killed. He could see it playing out, Wraith trying to cover them, Breck charging in blind. Another flash of light, another dead crew member, another failure. Or he could end it, here, now. He could take the failure, own it, and forge it into a lesson written in fire.
Back off,
he commanded, his voice dropping to a deadly calm.
This one's mine.
Captain?
Breck started to argue.
I said back off.
He stepped forward, away from the relative cover of the corridor wall. The drone's targeting lens swiveled to focus on him. He could feel the energy building within its core, the air growing thick with potential death. He didn't flinch. He let the silence stretch, letting his crew watch, letting them see. He raised his repeater pistol, the weight of it a familiar anchor in a sea of chaos. He met the drone's unblinking red eye. His voice was cold fire.
You want one more? Get in line.
The drone fired. Cormac was already moving, diving to the side as the sonic blast shattered the deck plating where he'd been standing. He rolled, came up on one knee, and fired twice. The shots were precise, aimed not at the armored chassis, but at the unshielded joints of the drone's weapon arm. The arm sparked, sputtered, and went dead. The drone hesitated, its programming struggling to reconcile the damage. That was all the opening he needed. He closed the distance, his movements economical and brutal, a dance of violence he had learned in forgotten wars. The drone swung its remaining arm, a heavy clawed appendage, but Cormac ducked under it, his hand slamming a magnetic charge onto its primary shield generator. He kicked off the wall, putting distance between them, just as the charge detonated with a sharp crack. The drone's glyphic shield flickered and died. He fired one last shot, a perfect strike into the now exposed power core. The drone convulsed, then collapsed in a heap of smoking, silent metal. The only sound was the hiss of cooling components and the spent shell casing skittering across the floor. He stood over the wreckage, his breath coming in slow, controlled measures. He had won the fight, but lost the mission. Wraith stepped up beside him, her gaze fixed on the dead machine, then on the shifting corridor ahead. She gave a short, sharp nod.
The path is clear. We're leaving.
The retreat to Stormchaser was silent and orderly. They left the gallows crown to its ghosts, both old and new. They left Shiv. They left the core. Back on the bridge, the silence was a heavy shroud. No one looked at him, but he could feel their eyes. The trust he commanded was a physical thing, and he could feel the cracks running through it. Vesna's voice, now restored to its unnerving calm, filled the quiet.
Trajectory clear. No beacon deployed from the derelict.
Good,
Cormac said. He stood alone at the command table, the weight of his authority heavier than ever. It was no longer a tool of command. It was a burden, a crown all his own.
Out here, death's not the enemy. It's just the drift reminding you that you got sloppy.